Welcome to the deep dive.
Glad to be here.
So today we're looking at how Americans view Canada as an ally. You hear a lot of different things, especially, when trade comes up.
Right. So we've been digging into some recent polling to try and get, well, a clearer picture.
And we've got a specific source.
Yes. We're focusing on a Pew Research Center poll. It was done this past March, surveyed over 3,600 American adults.
Okay. And the core question we're tackling.
Really, it's about getting past some of the maybe political rhetoric and seeing what the actual sentiment is. How do Americans really see Canada as a partner?
Got it. So let's jump in. What about this idea of the most important ally? What did the poll find there?
Well, this was quite interesting. Canada saw a pretty big jump.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, 12% named Canada as their top ally in March. Now, compare that to just 6% last year.
Wow, that's double.
Exactly. Doubled in a year. The UK is still ahead at 18%,
Okay.
but they actually dipped a bit, down from 22% in 2023.
So a definite shift happening there. Seems like Canada's profile is rising in that specific context.
It certainly suggests that, yeah. A shift in maybe how Americans are prioritizing that relationship.
Ooh. Okay, so beyond just that top spot, what about general feelings? Overall favorability towards Canada.
Overall, it's very positive. 74% of the Americans surveyed have a favorable view of Canada.
74%, that sounds pretty high. How does that stack against other countries?
It really does. It puts Canada right up there. Japan was at 77%. Italy also 74%.
Same as Canada then.
And actually slightly higher than the UK, which came in at 70%. So yeah, Canada's viewed very favorably. In good company.
Definitely. Now, I think I saw something about a difference based on political views.
Yes, and this is where it gets, quite telling. There's a noticeable partisan divide.
How so?
Well, among Democrats, favorability is really high. 87% have a positive view of Canada.
87, okay.
But among Republicans, it's significantly lower, 61%.
61, wow, that's a big gap. Over 25 points.
It is. It's a pretty stark difference in perception between the two groups. Makes you wonder what's driving that.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, just quickly, the polling itself, how did they gather this data, the methodology?
Sure. So Pew surveyed 3,605 adults right across the U.S. This was between March 24th and 30th.
Okay. And how did they reach people?
It was a mix. They used online surveys and also phone surveys. And importantly, the data was weighted.
Weighted, meaning?
Meaning they adjusted it statistically to make sure the sample accurately reflect the demographics of the U.S. adult population age, gender, race, education, that sort of thing. It helps ensure the results are reliable.
Right. Standard practice for good polling. Makes sense.
Exactly.
And there was also a mention, I think, about a potential meeting, something in the current news cycle.
Yeah, the source material briefly noted a claim made by Donald Trump. He suggested Prime Minister Mark Carney might be visiting Washington soon.
Oh, interesting. Was that confirmed?
Well, that's the thing. The report specifically mentioned that Carney's office hasn't actually confirmed any visit like that.
Oh, okay. So more of a mention than a confirmed event.
Precisely.
Yeah.
It just adds a layer, of how real-world political talk can sometimes swirl around these topics, even alongside the hard data from polls.
Gotcha. Okay, so let's try to summarize what we've looked at.
That's good.
We're seeing this, well, pretty significant rise in Americans naming Canada as their most important ally, doubled in a year.
Up to 12%.
And overall favorability is strong, 74%. Very positive.
Right, comparing what with other close allies like Japan, Italy, and the UK.
But there's that distinct split, that partisan gap we talked about. 87% of Democrats versus 61% of Republicans view Canada favorably.
Yeah, that's a key finding. It suggests views on Canada might be tied into broader political identities for some Americans.
So, despite maybe some noise you hear, the underlying view seems pretty positive for a large chunk of Americans, and Canada's importance seems to be increasingly recognized.
That's what the data seems to show, yes. A generally favorable view, an increasing sense of importance as an ally, but with that notable political divide underneath.
Which brings us to kind of a final thought for you, the listener.
Yeah.
Given this clear upward trend in seeing Canada as a crucial ally and this overall positive yet politically split sentiment, what do you think are the sort of deeper currents driving this shift? What's behind it all?
That's a great question.
And maybe more importantly, how might these changing views actually impact the U.S.-Canada relationship moving forward, whatever the political talk might be.
Definitely some food for thought there.
Absolutely. Well, thanks for taking this deep dive with us today.